Hey, what's up everybody? This is Osterberg501 and today I want to go over one of the best weapons to use in patch 12.12. And this video is going to be much less focused on the actual build for the weapon and much more focused on the combination of the weapon, the ammo, the availability of the ammo, and everything surrounding the actual build itself. Now the weapon I'm going over in this video is the P90, which has always been a pretty good and pretty heavily used weapon in the game in general, but this patch and this wipe, the P90, is absolutely ridiculous if you use it with a specific ammo type. So first off, the price of the P90 is around 100k right now. Now it is late when I'm recording this, so usually you're able to get these base P90s for around 90k, which is a decently high price, but the weapon is pretty cheap to mod and the ammo we're going to be using for this is incredibly cheap as well. So even though the base of the gun is expensive, you're saving a lot of money on ammo, on attachments, compared to a lot of other weapons you may be using. And the build for the P90 in this wipe is not the most important part. We're going to go over the absolute most important part after the build. And the build is very simple, and pretty much any of the P90s on the market you're going to buy are all going to have most of the base stuff you need. So first off, there is a thicker butt pad that's much better on stats, but I don't think you can find the thicker butt pad in raid anymore, or you may just not be able to sell it. And you need tier 4 on, I think, Peacekeeper to be able to buy the thicker butt pad. So once you have a rank 4 on that, which is more endgame, you'll be able to buy a really cheap thick butt pad that'll give this weapon better stats. But the main things you're going to want to be putting on this weapon after you buy it, after you buy the base version, is I always put the FN-P90 FN-90 upper receiver, which is essentially just a different version of where you put your sight on. The reason I use this one is it just adds this little part where you can put your sight on, and if you try to put a sight on either of the other two upper receivers, the sight sits much higher up. So I'd recommend getting this. This thing really isn't that expensive, but what does end up happening if you don't have some tier 4 vendors is the receiver rail to be able to put a tactical device on. There's usually not a lot of these up in the market, and they're usually going to be 25k if you don't have rank 4 to get it from the vendor. So you may have to go without tactical devices sometimes, but if you can get this rail, I always just put a D-ball on. You can put whatever tactical device you want on it. I usually end up using a flashlight a lot more than laser sights these days, so if you want to get a cheaper tactical device, just get one of the really cheap flashlights. And then also on top of the upper receiver that we put on, you can put whatever sight you want on up here. You can't put any of the really big scopes, but you probably don't want those. I just use the EOTech XP S30, and then past that, you're pretty much just putting the sound suppressor on it. Unless someone takes it off, they're pretty much always going to come with the flash hider that you put the suppressor on. And that's legitimately all you have to do. We'll also go over the magazines when we go over the ammo we're going to be using for this. So this specific build of the P90, without it being the best in slot, we have 58 ergo and 40 vertical recoil. So the weapon is still a pretty stable weapon, has good ergo. You could probably spray this and still be decently accurate. But once we go over the ammo, you'll see why this weapon becomes just absolutely ridiculous and becomes a complete laser beam. So if you go to Peacekeeper and you have Peacekeeper at rank 3, so this is going to be a little bit more of a mid-game focused weapon. Once you start to have some money and once you have a bit higher level and you start to have the higher ranking vendors, because once you're at rank 3 of Peacekeeper, you can buy SB193. Now you can actually buy pretty much an infinite amount of this ammo. There's no limits. There's not really any global limits. So you can just buy an infinite amount of this ammo. Whenever you need it, you can go ahead and buy it. Now it's 2 USD, but if you buy more, you'll actually start to see that it's slightly less than 2 USD, and you have to buy a certain amount for the price to start to reduce a little bit, because I think the price is just slightly below 1 USD. They just don't have any decimals for the currency in the game. So I'd recommend at least buying like 100. You'll see it's 198 instead of 200. It's a really slight price reduction, but over time it can start to save you a little bit of money. So besides you being able to buy pretty much an infinite amount of this ammo and it being very cheap, if you inspect this ammo, it actually is going to give a bunch of pretty ridiculous buffs. So 5% accuracy, so the the weapon is going to be slightly more accurate, but the main thing is you're getting minus 24 recoil. Now remember, our vertical recoil is only 40 on our P90. So if you put minus 24, you're down to 16 vertical recoil. And you'll notice a massive difference. The P90 with this ammo just legitimately becomes a laser beam that you can laser beam people even at pretty long ranges. And even past that, it gives you minus 20% durability burn. And what that is it reduces the amount of durability is being removed from the weapon from using this ammo compared to what's essentially the base ammo for the weapon. So the weapon is losing less durability and it's minus 6.4% heat. So the weapon heats up slower than with a lot of the other ammos as well, meaning you're not going to have as many malfunctions when you're spraying out ammo out of a 900 RPM weapon. And looking at all of the buffs that SB193 gives, you would think, well, this bullet can't be that good on penetration or damage compared to, say, an SS190, which is the best armor penning ammo for the weapon. But if you go and look at the stats for this ammo, it's not much worse than SS190 on pen. It can still pen up to class 6 armor, and it still pens up to class 4 really well. It starts to taper off a little bit once you get to class 5 and class 6 armor, but you're still able to pen it. SS190 only has slightly higher pen at tier 4 through 6 armor, and SB193 also has 5 additional base damage over SS190s. So the bullets are pretty similar when it comes to their armor pen and their damages, but the SB193 just gives you that ridiculous recoil reduction. And if you were actually to go and compare SB193 to SS190, SS190 is double the price. You can only buy 120 every reset compared to pretty much infinite with the SB193. So it's double the price and very limited amounts. And if you go into the SS190 actually increases durability burn by 20%. So it's 40% higher durability burn than the SB193, and it gives plus 17% heat. So it's going to heat up over 20% faster than SB193, and SS190 doesn't give any recoil reduction. The SB193 is 24 recoil reduction, which is absolutely ridiculous. Now, the one big downside for the SB193, so it's 299 bullet velocity, but the SS190 is 715. So this bullet at medium or longer ranges, you're going to have to lead your targets by quite a bit compared to SS190. That's the one major downside with the SB193, but with how accurate it is, with how little recoil it has, even at medium ranges, even sometimes at long ranges, you're able to just beam people so easily on fully automatic that it's not going to be that big of a deal. Now for the final part of the P90 are the magazines, because there's only one usable magazine for the P90, and you actually are able to buy this from Peacekeeper rank 3 as well. So once you hit Peacekeeper rank 3, you're able to use everything for the P90 essentially. And you're able to buy 10 of these magazines every reset. So a ton of these magazines, you really shouldn't have an issue of ever running out of magazines per reset. And they're 101 USD every magazine, which is for 50 rounders. And that comes out to around 12,600 rubles. So these magazines are probably a third of the price of, say, M4 60 rounders or something like that. They're pretty much one of the cheapest magazines with this high of a capacity. So very cheap magazines, all 50 rounders, and you can get pretty much all of them you're ever going to need. And even if you want to use this weapon before getting Peacekeeper rank 3, they'll usually be around 20 to 25k. Like I mentioned, I'm recording this at a really weird time, so these are going to be a bit more expensive than they usually are, but usually I see them at around 20 to 25k, so just a little bit cheaper if you want to use them before Peacekeeper rank 3. So that's pretty much everything I want to go over with the P90. I would very much recommend going and using this weapon once you have Peacekeeper rank 3 and are able to buy the magazines and the ammos I went over. So that's pretty much all I want to go over. So subscribe if you want to see more EFT or other FPS videos. Leave a like if you liked the video. Leave a comment down below what you guys think about the P90 this swipe, and thanks for watching.
Bears, give up!